Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Taylor's gone. Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome, lads and lassies. The top of the afternoon to you. Happy St. Paddy's Day. Yes, it's March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, no matter where you are. It's my middle name, by the way. So, yes, glad to have each and every one of you along on this March 17th. Looking forward to our friend Mike DeCourcy joining us as well. Today in Campbell's corner, Shon Morris. He's been on with us before, but it's been quite a while. Shon, former college player, also Big Ten analyst. As we get into tournament play and plenty others going on, we'll talk about how each conference did, getting teams in. Pretty equal, if you want to be honest. The SEC led the way with 10, Big Ten's right there with 9, the Big 12 with 8, and the ACC with 8. But each of those conferences, as I mentioned yesterday, I believe, having a number one seed. Yep. Scott Dolson wins the Athletics Director of the Year award from COSIDA. Those are all of the sports information directors around the country. So congratulations to him, and well-earned. A well-earned honor. As Indiana completed a 16-0 football season, the greatest turnaround in the history of, to me, college sports, period. And not only just college sports, any sport. That fast? Yeah, I mean, yes, there were things that helped it, no doubt, but I don't care. That's amazing. Claude says, I don't have my green on. Well, you must not be wearing a color. Watching on color, my friend. It's not your solid green, I guess, but it's all green. I'm double greened up. This is a lighter green that I'm wearing on top, but underneath is also green. So I'm greened up, and trust me, my middle name is Patrick. My blood is green. James Patrick Coyle, trust me. I'm Irish, baby. I'm Irish. It's always a fun day. Being Irish on our St. Patrick's Day, but no longer go out and do the crazy celebrating like way back in the day. Those were the fun days, though. But I do not recall a St. Patrick's Day of frozen tundra St. Patrick's Day. I know earlier in the morning, the temperatures were in the teens. I don't even know what today's high is going to be. We already talked about this relentlessly, how the weather is going to be this kind of weird and wonky before, right? So the low of 15 last night, this morning, whatever, it's going to be 79 degrees on Saturday. 79. Boy. Yeah, if you live around here, buddy, your immune system gets a workout as it should. So there you go, Fred. He says Jim O'Coyle. I've done a lot of research, and it was never O'Coyle, I think, but it actually started out as Macahoyle or something crazy. You know how the stuff gets derivatives down through the deal. Cold and snowy up north. where Mike Shenanigans is. Yeah, I bet, man. It was a cold eve or night there. Is there going to be an Indiana Sports Beat radio group for the tournament? He came in second to that, or Cindy came in second to that last year. I forgot to fill out my bracket. I guess I said I can reach out to Pete. I'll reach out to him to see if he wants to do that. We'll have to get that going today, because doesn't that start this evening with the play-in games? Or is that just tomorrow? I can't remember, because I can't wait for the play-in games. Speaking of all these, the Crown tournament has filled its field. There's only 8 teams in it, so it's not like it's this big thing. But the teams they do have, Oklahoma, Colorado, Baylor, Minnesota, Rutgers, looks like they're Toronto Blue Jays. Daggone, I can't think of. Anyway, West Virginia and Stanford. But, and I'll talk about this with Mike DeCourcy, but is there any point to holding on to the National Invitational Tournament? I don't see the point in it. Or this should be where the NCAA president should send his teams that he thinks deserve to be in the NCAA tournament that aren't getting in. I mean, you've got an NIT that is, what's the point in that thing? TV? Really? Who the hell are watching those games besides fans of those specific teams? And that's not how television works. You can't draw the interest with just those. And I just don't see a point in it continuing. There are 4, a total of 4. There are only 8 teams in the entire Crown tournament. That's twice as many Power 4 teams that are in the NIT, if that tells you something. Ooh, Andrew said it's the coldest St. Patrick's Day in Bloomington in 140 years. Hey, Blarney! Glad I wasn't around for the last one. Mercy. That's a long time. Yeah. I remember it. I remember it snowing. And I swear I have a memory. I may be wrong. I thought it snowed back in 87 when Indiana was winning their last NCAA championship. Was it snowy back then? Or is that just a something that's in my head? I was in Southern Indiana, but I just seem to remember that. The SEC, another strong conference showing this year. They had the most bids. Surprising. I didn't think that was going to be the case for quite some time. As a matter of fact, they did not have a surefire number 1 seed until the end there. And Florida was able to get that even though they lost in the SEC tournament to Vanderbilt. But all 4 number 1 seeds from 4 different conferences, which we like. Parity. That's parity. The SEC, 10 teams in. Florida, their number 1 seed. The Big Ten, 9 teams in. Of course, Michigan is their number 1 seed, but they have a lot of other teams at the top with Purdue and Illinois and Michigan State. They're probably the strongest at the top. Big 12 right behind them. Arizona, their number 1 seed. They got 8 teams in. Of course, you've got Houston. ACC, their number 1 seed is Duke. Virginia is the team to look out for. Fan Mata retiring after 21 years on the job. twice at Butler. Long stint at Ohio State. I think 17 years he was there. At Xavier, he was one of those, he may have been the start of the run of unbelievable multiple hires in a row at Xavier. Pete Gillen. They just had a great run. But, yeah, that CBC tournament, remember that thing? That's got to be going away. I mean, you have to even pay to get into that thing. And so they're not getting teams in the end. It's a different day and age. The guys that are being paid, they're done, that are seniors, they're done. So we'll see. Now who's going to win this thing? We get to talk to Mike about it. He'll join us next. We'll see how many he got right on his bracket as well. Appreciate you being with us on this St. Patrick's Day Tuesday. Looking forward to more. We'll talk about who's got the path, who doesn't have the path. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after Pause for the Cause.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games Sunday through Thursday, plus a new menu and next-level upgrades like private game suites and the high-flying human crane. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington on South College Mall Road.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
You're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area? You need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Bored, Bloomington? Dave & Buster's can fix that. Eat and drink your way through our new menu. Play half-price games every Sunday through Thursday. Watch your teams on the big screen and level it all up with the high-flying human crane. Private game suites and more, only at 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Appreciate each and every one of you being along for the ride. It's not supposed to be this cold on St. Paddy's Day, man, but it is what it is, and we'll get through it, right? Yes, we will, because we've got basketball to heat us up starting this week as the NCAA tournament getting going. Of course, you can catch all that action that's spread out everywhere, man. It used to be everything was on one place, but now you can catch multiple games on at the same time. Especially if you have a service that has the split screen. The thing is, and I do, I'm not giving them a commercial, but I do YouTube TV, and I love the split screen, except for I've found anytime that I try to use that, I can't focus on any of those. I focus on one of them because you can have the sound on one of them. Generally, that's the one you're going to focus on. And the other screens are, unless you have just an absolutely enormous TV, that's where my eyes generally go. So I ultimately just end up putting it on that game. It's like, oh, come on, man. What are we going to do here? Who are your picks? Just texted our boy Pete to see if he can maybe throw that together real quick. Glad that you guys enjoy doing it. We'll throw some merch in there, as our good friend Mike DeCourcy from Fox, the Big Ten, Sporting News. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a few others to throw in there, Mike.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Don't forget that one.
Well, there you go. The key contributor and the number one bracket analyst in the world today. How'd you come out on your brackets? I didn't look. I'm curious. I know it was close, but everybody's going to have a couple of misses there at the end because of the subjectivity.
It's interesting because I did better than I've ever done in terms of I had 68 out of 68. I have never done 68 before.
Whoa!
I had all 68 within one seed line. There are probably about a third of the brackets did that, but I was a seed line off on, I think, 14 teams. I think this is how close it was. And this shows how much better the process is getting, Jim, is that if I had gotten three more teams, if I had switched three teams, well, technically six, but if I'd switched three, it would have been six. I would have finished fifth. And I finished like tied for 130, something like that. I mean, that shows how much better the process is getting.
And those seed lines, I mean, does 50% of that have to do with some either geography or conference affiliate that they're trying to avoid? Just that slight.
No,
movement?
they didn't switch any seed lines. It just came down to a matter of how you evaluated very narrow margins. They were the 4 and 5 line were particularly problematic for me. I think that's where I lost a lot of my points because there was very little separating them, and you had to try to judge what they would value. I ultimately came down on the idea that they would, for instance, value St. John's as dual championships in the Big East. I thought they might. But they dinged them for lack of high-end achievement. No argument there because they didn't have a lot of high-end achievement. They had a lot of high-end games, but until they got into the Big East and got better, they lost all of them. They lost Alabama, Illinois, I think they played. I mean, they lost them all. And so I understood why the committee went where they did there, although they gave Virginia a 3 seed. And Virginia beat no high-end opponents whatsoever. They had very few such games and won exactly 0 of them. At least St. John's could say, hey, we beat UConn twice, once at home, once on a semi-neutral floor. What Virginia can say is, you give us a 7 seed, we're winning. You give us an 8 seed, we're winning. You give us somebody at the high end, Duke, Carolina, Duke again. We're losing. That's what they did every time. Anybody on the 6 line or higher that made the field, Virginia lost. How about that? And they still got a 3 seed. So I don't know how you justify the seeding of St. John's where they are when you completely ignored the fact that Virginia beat no one. Virginia's really good at beating middle of the field teams. And the level of and when I say middle of the field, I'm talking about 7, 8, 9 and beyond, that they didn't beat anybody on the top 6 lines.
St. John's had maybe one of the weirdest, I don't know, what do you call it? Round back-to-back or round games with UConn. They lose by 3,000 in the last time, and then they beat them by 20 this time. I was like, wow, what a turnaround. Of course, in those games, first of all, you knew St. John's was not a 30-point dog to them. They just, stuff gets away from you. But to see it just reverse in that fashion was kind of weird at this late in the year on top of it.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it was kind of like that in the first one too, when they played at the Garden in the St. John's home game. In that game, it wasn't quite as distinct a dominance, but it was a good solid 10-point-ish type game. I think the final margin was around 9, but it was pretty much St. John's game in that first one as well. So really strange. Does make you wonder about UConn going into this tournament. I'm not super confident in my bracket this year. The not the one I projected, but the one I'm picking. I think the injury issues for so many teams are going to have a significant impact on this tournament. And I look at Michigan, a team that I would have had, if they were healthy, I would have had going, especially in this bracket, I would have had them going to the Final Four blindfolded. I think that Iowa State's very good, but a full-strength Michigan, I don't think Iowa State's any match for a full-strength Michigan. But we've seen over the course of the last 2-3 weeks since LJ Kaysen was injured, how that has changed Michigan's flow on offense and the ability to get energized when Kaysen comes off the bench to run the second unit, so to speak. They are not the same offensive basketball team without him, and I do wonder about their fitness to make the Final Four. If they make it, it'll be because Dusty May and his coaches found and enforced a new formula, because the one they took out there into Chicago is not lasting a long time in this tournament. It'll last a while, but it's not going as far as they want to go.
Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News, Big Ten Network, Fox Network as well. Speaking of which, Purdue, boy, I know that this will not be agreed to, but I think what Purdue just did was one of the most impressive things I've seen them do under Matt Painter, because they didn't do it with a 2-time player of the year. They didn't do it with just crazy, a guy like daggone Mount Edie, who I was referring to.
Right.
But they had just the same 3 core guys with some other guys spread in. So what they did, that impressed me, because they didn't have a guy that's supposed to dominate in the middle like Trey Coffin-Reed did. And I think that Braden Smith went record hunting a little bit, but I think that ultimately helped the damn team. I think because of that, he got so many other people involved in scoring that it made them a much better team.
If you look at them through the course of the year, they've never been as good when Braden is option A, because that's how teams guarded them. They said, okay, Braden, you make shots. And he did. And they usually lost. When he scored high numbers, 25, 23, whatever the number was, they often lost. And they are a much better basketball team when he is a tertiary scorer. Okay, the ball came back to him. There's 6 seconds on the clock. Really good. One of the better guards in college basketball at getting that and knowing how to do something positive with it. So many teams panic in that circumstance. Honestly, Jim, I'm surprised that more coaches don't watch the NBA, how they handle end clock situations. Because the reaction of the typical college player is there's no time on the clock, drive it right into the defense. And it doesn't work, because if you drive without a plan, you're either fouling or you're getting nothing or you're turning it over. More often than not, it's better to stop, depending on the timing on the clock. But if you're really up against it, better to stop and just take a shot, get it up on the rim, and you either have time to recover to get back, or your teammate might collect the rebound, or it might even go in. But very few college teams watch the NBA because they have a lot more late clock situations because their clock's shorter. And yeah, I get it. They're pros, so they're going to handle it better. But it's the scheme, it's the thought process that matters here. And very few college teams do that well. But Braden is expert at that. He is so creative and so composed that when they get late clock, he excels in that circumstance. And that doesn't happen a lot with them because their offense is so efficient. And again, that comes down to him. Whereas I mentioned before about the stagnation that we've seen from Michigan subsequent to the LJ Kaysen injury, you don't ever see Purdue's offense going stagnant. Ineffective, unproductive, yeah, that happens because you don't make shots or somebody guards and takes away your preferred options and secondary or tertiary options don't work. But they're never dead. They're never like the ball's not moving. That's not who Purdue is. And that's one of the reasons why they're able to bounce back, as you mentioned, from losing 3 out of their final 4 out of their final 6, and then go win 4 games in a row in the Big Ten tournament, including 3 against tournament teams, including 2 against top 4 seeds.
Yeah, and they are playing at the best time of the year. They went through that lull where they had really dipped, but man, hey, this is when you want to play your best. They're playing as good as any team in the Big Ten. Obviously, they win the Big Ten tournament, which I think it's great when you catch fire like that. But also, I don't want to. How many teams have won the national championship, Mike, after losing in their conference? Not only the conference championship, but the conference tournament period. But come back and come back and play well. But like you said, there's a lot of teams. North Carolina, another team hit by the injury bug. That is going to be. Will Kansas be at full strength with Darren Peterson? There's a lot of questions regarding injuries this year, but were you surprised on how the bubble tightened up? It was all we were talking about was how weak the bubble was. And I'm not saying it got really, really, really strong. It really clarified itself at the end. People were going, having strokes. And I'm like, it worked itself out. And the teams that probably deserved to be in got in. There were a couple of 2. That I'm sure you could have subjectivity with. I don't have any.
There weren't any. There were. Yeah. Did you hear any coach say
no
we should have been in?
Speaking of which, all right, I've had a couple of people reach out to me because I gave Notre Dame a ton of crap when they didn't get into the CFP and just took their ball and went home. And then I didn't do that when Indiana chose not to. I'm like, well, first of all, who the hell wants to watch this team play anymore? Nobody does. I said, but that's apples to oranges. You can't compare those 2 sports because they're completely different. That would have been, I don't even know how many other 20-something practices in football for the guys that were coming back, and that's a large number of guys there. But I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying that nobody wanted to see that anymore.
Yeah, but shouldn't you want to play, Jim?
Well, the guys that are leaving, if this was 4 years ago, yeah, but the guys that are was it 7 guys that are leaving? They're gone. I mean, they've never played here before. It doesn't help this team. For Indiana specifically, for them, they've got things they need to work on right now for building next year's team for where they weren't.
Yeah,
they came in behind.
I understand that, but I don't buy that, Jim. I really don't. You have the opportunity to continue competing, and there are certain tournaments over recent years in which you have to pay to compete. I can understand saying no to that. It's going to cost you money to compete. But I don't understand, when that's not the issue, why you would say no to continuing to compete. I don't see any program that has bettered itself by saying no. Look, I don't know whether Nebraska had a great year because they won the crown last year, but they won the crown last year and had a great year. I know that Pitt turned down the NIT each of the past 2 years, and they finished 15th in the ACC. So it doesn't take you forward. I know that. I think you'd want to continue playing. And I think it's an opportunity for you to say, okay, well, now we're not under the pressure to win that we were before to try to get into the field. So let's let Trent Sisley play a little bit of ball. I mean, Trent, how many minutes did he get down the stretch?
That's the one thing that I mentioned. Not only Trent, you've got Ristic, the young guard on their team. Those are the only two because Josh Harris was hurt and they're not going to play him now. But that's the only thing that I suggested as being a reason as to get minutes for some of these guys. Put them in a bad position. I mean, I do get that. But I also understand that, you know what, but then again, the Crown Tournament, hell, it's only 8 teams. What's it take? 15 minutes for that tournament to take place?
I think it's a one. I think it's April 1 to 5. So you only have to you get to practice some. You can practice as little or as much as you want. There's no rules. They're not saying you got to be out there for 4 hours a day, Jim. Yeah. You can't be on the phones for 4 hours a day. You got to be out there hooping. No, I mean you can practice little as much as you want. And then you go to Vegas for tops 5 days. I just don't see how that's a bad thing. I know Indiana would have been welcomed into it. And yes, I work for Fox.
They would love for them to come in just because the fans travel the way they do. But I don't know that fans are going to travel to see this.
I don't know.
Even to Las Vegas, we won't know. But
my disclaimer, I work for Fox, but if it were the NIT, I'd say the same thing. Trent Sisley had one game in the final month of the season from February 1 on, one game where he played 10 minutes and no games where he got more than 2 shots. So I just can't buy that it would not have been better for Indiana basketball's future to get that guy onto the floor and playing more hoop.
I don't disagree with you. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks with us now. We are talking NCAA ball and just ball, period. Lots of stuff to talk about when we come back, Mike. The NIT. There's 4 Power 4 teams in the whole damn thing. There's only 8 teams in the Crown Tournament. They have twice as many Power 4. Now, I know that they have a requirement there that gets them. Thad Matta's retiring after 21 years. Bama and Nate Oates. I mean, he's really starting to pile up the bad player rap down there. But plenty more to get to. Appreciate you being with us. We're back with all that and more right after these messages on this Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Bored, Bloomington? Dave & Buster's can fix that. Eat and drink your way through our all-new menu. Play half-price games every Sunday through Thursday. Watch all your team's wins on a 40-foot screen and 30 HD TVs. And level up with the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game. Private game suites, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's on 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. I'm so happy to be with you on this St. Patrick's Day, and glad to have you along, and especially our friend Mike DeCourcy, whom I'm assuming that's English. Oh, you're muted there. somehow. Did I mute you by accident? I didn't think that I did. I did not. You have to unmute yourself. Unfortunately, somehow you probably didn't even mean to do it. There you go.
Yes, I'm Irish, so
English.
that's why I'm wearing green today.
Oh, you're Irish.
Yes,
DeCourcy is Irish. I would have thought that was like French.
It has French roots, but it is Irish. I was checking into the United Center the other day, and they asked my name, and I said it, and they said, "Oh, a paisan." I said, "No. It's not spelled with an I. It's spelled with a Y."
DeCourcy, I'd say, yeah. I'm James Patrick Coyle, so I'm all in, baby. I'm all in. The United Center. I did not go to the Big Ten tournament this year for the first time in close to a decade, probably. I have to be honest. I hate the United Center. I am not a fan. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Parking stinks. I'm just not a fan of the setup there. It's not very many. And how long has that thing been around now? 30 years?
The United Center?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, MJ won the first few titles at least.
90.
In the old Chicago Stadium. Did he?
Oh,
did he
they
win
did.
all of them? I can't remember now when they switched over, but it's been there a while for sure.
I love the parity, Mike. I've been talking about this for 2 years. Doesn't matter football or basketball. We have seen. If anybody says we have not seen parity since the transfer portal and NIL have really kind of kicked in the last couple of years, I would have to argue with them. This year in the NCAA tournament alone, the 4 major conferences are 2 teams away from each other in total entrance into the tournament. And of course, the SEC and the Big Ten have more teams in them than the Big 12 and the ACC does. But and all 4 with a number 1 seed, as it should be. Although Florida kind of slid in there at the end, it could have gone a different way, but it doesn't matter. It worked out, and there you go. I love that. But also, the Big Ten has, take your pick, Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue that you want to go up against. Big 12's got Houston, Iowa State, ACC, Duke. Did have North Carolina until it got stuck, but Virginia, I kind of thought that they were going to be like a little sneaky team. I can tell you think that they may be an upset potential victim.
Well, I mean, I guess they could be a sneaky team, but they haven't shown me. I know what happened when I saw them play a team that I know very well from the Big Ten on a neutral floor. And that night, Ohio State was the better team for most of the game. Now, winning and losing is what matters. And Virginia won the game. Ohio State helped a little, and it didn't help Ohio State that Mobley was out. You lose 16 points a game there, and they still controlled the game for 36 minutes. I wasn't really overly impressed by Virginia's effort in that game. So it's hard for me to buy into them as a significant achiever in this tournament. And maybe they will. I mean, I will say that I have less feeling about what will go in this tournament than I have in a while. And my belief in that I am, and why I am somewhat apprehensive, all comes down to injury. So many of these injuries happen so late in the season. And so often those teams were vexed by, how do we fix this? In some instances, it's not fixable. I mean, you lose a Caleb Wilson. You're not fixing that. I mean, the guy scored 20 points almost every time he walked on the floor, Jim. I mean, of all the players in college basketball, he was the single most consistent scorer. Now, he wasn't the leading scorer. I mean, A.J. DeBonsa scored more points, but A.J. would go out and get 40, and then maybe he'd get 16 because that's what the game called for, and he's a playmaker as much as he's a scorer. But every time, if you look at Caleb Wilson's game log, it's unbelievable. I mean, he scores 20 almost every night. And you just don't replace that kind of consistent production with anybody. No one is going to give you 20 points every single time on the floor. I'm looking at the game log now just to show you. I mean, he had a 12-point game in the Miami game because he was out. He didn't finish that game, so he didn't get to 20. Prior to that, he had 5 consecutive 20-point games. He had 7 out of 8. He went all the way back to December, and he had 22, 21, 20, 20, 20, 20, 50. Like he was so consistent for a freshman. It was absurd. I will say that I really want the Pacers to get AJ DeBonsa. I think he'd be a phenomenal addition to the Pacers.
That's I talk to each week Dustin Apiric, who is the Indy Stars Pacers beat writer, is on with us as well, and what him.
Yeah, I know Dustin well. He's one of
being
my
Pisons, being Pennsylvania Pisons.
Yes.
But yeah, no, we love. He's just we love him to death. But that's been the discussion. Darren Peterson, AJ DeBansa, because of what they have, they're dynamic, and Tyrese Halliburton, and so. But DeBansa is definitely the most dynamic of those guys. I saw him play in high school. I was at Montverde for their Montverde Invitational last season. He was being coached by Keith Smart, no less. Then I was like, okay, this dude better get a handle on his little showmanship, because he was doing too much flash and no dash. But that was pretty much the AAU circuit. And that's not going to happen in the NBA or whatever, unless you can get away with it, because like everything else, if you can do it, it ain't bragging. But and I think the other pros will handle that, but his talent is obviously there, and he's stayed healthy. But then again, I don't know that you go bad, but I think they need either of those first two. Or is it AJ DeBansa and somebody else? Who would be your second pick besides? Because I don't know that Cameron Boozer adds that much to what they already have.
No, in the dichotomy between those two players, it's a pick is the pick to win with this group. And if that's the case, there's no question in my mind that AJ is the choice. He would be a perfect complement to who they are and what they are. If you're looking for, okay, who's going to score 25,000 career points, and if you look at it, and Darren is totally bought in, if he's a baller, if he's not just a player, but he's a baller, like LeBron's a baller, KD is a baller. Those guys will work until they are as close to perfect as they can be. Steph, Kobe, and being the sort of like the model from a game standpoint, from a skill standpoint of what Darren Peterson's what his goal would be, because he's the most like Kobe of any player we've seen. But Kobe, there was a quote that I saw yesterday from Kobe where he said, the reason I succeeded was because I never got tired. I never got bored with the little things. And that's what I'm talking about. Those guys, even after they are super wealthy and super great, they're like, no, there's something more I can get to. And they just continue to work. And if Peterson has that, he's going to be a superstar. But I don't know. I don't know he has that. And of all the great players that I've seen come out lately, I'm more dubious about him because of the way this season has gone. And that's the doubt that he and his people created in people like me. And I think that concern also permeates front offices throughout the NBA. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. The reason I brought up the Pacers was because I was going to say, like, I know they traded away 5 or below, but if they fall to 4, Caleb Wilson is a heck of a consolation prize for not getting AJ. That's what I was going to say.
Over Darius Acuff?
Yeah, because you've got a point guard. Darius is terrific, but you don't need another point guard. This guy is 6'10", is among the best, will be among the best athletes in the league the minute he walks on the floor. And he's, like, I used to say that about Andrew Wiggins, but Andrew did not have that gear. A little bit of health problems, but did not have that, like, I got to be a baller guy. That was not in him. And so he did not become a superstar. But Caleb, that's a guy that has at minimum, that dynamism that I mentioned that we had before with Wiggins, but he's 6'10", 6'11", and it makes a difference, Jim. And so, yeah, if I fall to 4 and the other 3 that are expected to go top 3 go, I'm very happy to take Caleb Wilson as my quote unquote consolation prize.
Man, you must have been busy, or the Sporting News is late getting a lot of your stuff out, because I see a lot of 1-hour updates. Besides your bracket, you've got a piece on the Texas Western team beating Kentucky back in what was that, 69?
Oh, that is our 140th anniversary celebration today.
Oh,
And one of the
glad I brought it up.
One of the projects that we did was to select the 140 greatest moments in sports history since our founding. And that was a heck of a challenge. We voted, we talked, we yelled, we picked, and then when it was over,
where did my only question is, when several years ago when you started joining us, where did that fall in there?
Yes. It was a fun project to work on, and I wrote all of the college basketball pieces that were included in it. So I think we had around 9 or 10 college basketball moments. Kentucky fans, close your ears. But the one that was the highest of the college basketball moments was 1992 Christian Lee.
Yeah, you know what? I still have never understood why. I mean, it was a great game, but I don't think you can separate. There's just too many great games in the history of the annals that thing got separated out to being the best. I think it was this big Duke thing going on at the time, but
it really was that great a game and that great a finish, Jim. I was there, and I've been doing this now. I've been in sports media for 45 years. I've been doing NCAA basketball since 1986, and I'm so proud to be able to say I was there. It was an unbelievable night.
Oh, there's no doubt it was unbelievable for me, because back then I was still real fanish, and I probably have told you before, just grew up with a hatred of Kentucky. Dude, I grew up in Southern Indiana. I was like, I didn't care about Louisville. I hated Kentucky for a lot of reasons. But anyway, I was working for CBS Sports during that tournament. I was in Lexington working that regional when I believe it was the Fab Five, I believe, taking on Jimmy Jackson in Ohio State. And that was in the afternoon. And then so we got to go watch. We were done and went and watched that game, and I was in a tavern called the Two Keys Tavern in Lexington. Is probably one of the more well-known bars in there. And man, when that shot went through, that I have never heard a place go so deathly quiet. I mean, and I was biting holes through my lips, not saying a word because I didn't want to die. But it was thoroughly enjoyed, I promise you. What is up next for you, sir?
Well, I've got the trip to the, I don't even know. Well, it's not any particular region. It's the Greenville site for the first couple of rounds, which includes Duke, includes Carolina. Some people not happy about that.
So you're going to the actual site. Is this a first?
No, I go most years to a first round site. Not every year, but most years I do. And so,
now, I mean, are you on the stage there? Do they have?
Oh, no, I'm just covering for the Sporting News.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just be writing this week and talking to you. And so I'll be there, and Illinois will be there. I know that. So it should be an interesting weekend. And I've told everybody this. I think that where Arkansas and Wisconsin is also a Thursday, Saturday site, I think. And what I've decided is that whatever game might be being played, if they coincide, whatever game might be being played in Greenville, I won't care if Arkansas and Wisconsin play on Saturday. I am carving out 2 hours to watch that game because that is going to be the game of this tournament. That neither team can stop the other team. That's partly because neither team is great defensively. It's also because neither team is stoppable offensively. It's going to be wonderful. I remember, you probably were there, Jim, 2017 Oklahoma State, Michigan at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. John Beilein was coaching the Wolverines. Brad Underwood was coaching Oak State at the time. They went up and down that court like nobody short of the 2024 Pacers. 92-91, one of the most fun games I've ever seen in the NCAA tournament, certainly in the first round. And I think Wisconsin is going to be versus Arkansas is going to be some approximation of that action.
Can't wait for all of it. I know that one of your former colleagues, Shon Morris, is going to join us next.
Awesome. He's the best guy. America's favorite human. Absolutely.
He is. Isn't he tremendous? Been a while since he's been on with us, but he's going to be in Campbell's Corner today. Sometimes a dangerous place, but no, it's just looking forward to it. Well, we're all looking forward to all of your coverage coming from all over, man, and we look forward to talking about it next week to see what all happened in this first weekend.
Thanks, Jim.
Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten and Fox Networks joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next in Campbell's Corner, JD's got Shon Morris lined up. As I mentioned, he's been on with us before, but it has been a while. Former player, former Big Ten analyst. He is just, and great human, just one of the great down-to-earth people. You don't always find that in guys that have moved over to the TV side, but sometimes you do, and we're grateful for him being with us today. Let's see, we've got that and plenty more. We'll be talking about the NCAA tournament, of course, more as that gets underway. Thad Matta retiring after 21 years at Butler twice, Ohio State a long run there, and Xavier as well. Hey, for those of you in the Bloomington area, make sure if you're looking for something to do for the kids or with the kids so you can relax, head out to Dave & Buster's in Bloomington. Great place to sit down and let the kids go have fun, play all the games they want. You've got wall-to-wall TVs, a full bar, delicious new menu. You can plan your next birthday party, work meeting, or get together at Dave & Buster's private room. Be sure to tell them you heard it on Indiana Sports Beat Radio and get entered into for some free ISB merch or IBU basketball merch. We're back with plenty more. By the way, it's located at 751 South College Mall Road. Back with plenty more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after these messages.
Indiana football accomplished what no other team ever has. Big Ten, Rose Bowl, Peach Bowl, and CFP national champions. The Hoosiers have etched their name into the history books as the first 16-0 team in the modern era. A limited edition of only 5,000 commemorative national championship footballs has been released. 3 full panels embossed and stamped with every championship logo and fully licensed. Get your piece of history today at NICOsports.com. That's NICOsports.com.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games every Sunday through Thursday, a new menu to dig into, and next-level upgrades like private game suites, the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington, 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. J.D. Campbell joining us, as is Shon Morris in Campbell's Corner. J.D. got the I shouldn't say Oakland Athletics.
Don't ever say Oakland.
Man, do you know how hard it is to not say Oakland in front of Raiders and Oakland in front of A's? I mean, I grew up watching Raleigh Fingers, and I didn't grow up there. I was a kid, but I remember it. That was actually one of my first memories of sports because of all those mustaches that they were growing. This was in the early stinking 70s when they were. Did they win 3 straight?
3 straight, 72 through 74.
Nobody's done that since, have they?
Yeah, they beat the Reds. That was the one bad one. I thought
I
the Reds
know.
were a better team. But then they beat the Mets with Yogi Berra and that 83 and 79 team. And then they kind of crushed the Dodgers 4-1 in 74. And then it all kind of broke up. In fact, I don't have the book, but I'm actually reading the Ricky Henderson biography right now. Man, he's
the man.
He's a funny guy. But who thought we'd be talking about baseball 2 days after conference tournaments, because that's a big game tonight.
Yeah, and I'm only bringing it up because you're wearing the you've got the merch
Day. It's
on.
the only green things I have.
That I hear, it's a great and at least you were able to manage it, cross it over with sports. Hell, I couldn't do that. I had to find just green. So, and then speaking of St. Patrick's Day, we got Shon Morris as well, and I'm pretty sure is Shon, if you can hear me, are you Irish?
I can hear you.
Perfect. I can hear you as well. Are you is that Irish, Shon? S-H-O-N?
Well, my middle name's Patrick, so I think that'll kind of narrow it down. Yeah.
I'm James Patrick Coyle. So welcome, me fellow Irishman.
Shon, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I'm sorry. This connection has kind of come in and out, but I can definitely hear you guys.
Well, that's great. I want to ask you how many times you went down by the Green River in Chicago when you lived there for so many years, because that's, twice we played in the Big Ten tournament on St. Patrick's Day. And I just remember the Green River. I thought that was great.
Well, it was cool, but the little known fact is that that place was such a dump. It was green most of the time. They just greened it up, turned. So I never went down there that much.
Well, today was green ice skating rink, JD. Man, I can only imagine what things are like in Chicago after what they are here. But for those of you who are not in the know, I mentioned Shon's been on with us before, but former Big Ten player at Northwestern. As a matter of fact, I was looking in one of their best of all times. He's listed as one of their best power forwards ever, baby. Just went nuts in his sophomore year, big 6'10" brute. And but could you have ever imagined Northwestern being on a 7-game winning streak over Indiana?
No. Let's just be honest here. It's one of those things that over the last 3 or 4 years, for whatever reason, Chris has their number, and it hasn't really mattered who's been coaching there. And then you flip the other side of the equation. there's been other teams they haven't been able to beat. But what has happened with Northwestern basketball over the last, 10 to 12 years has really been remarkable, because it was a doormat for a long, long time. Not maybe completely identical to Indiana football, but the fact that they've been able to kind of, have a little bit of success, not quite the success, obviously, that Indiana football's had, but a somewhat similar turnaround story, but nothing as dramatic as Indiana football for sure.
Shon, I always like when I invite people like you on, because we've had a wonderful relationship over the years. And I like to tell a story of the first time I met you. Well, first I was reading a Street and Smith's magazine in 1984. And I saw this 6'10" kid out of Iowa that was going to Northwestern, as one of the freshmen to watch. And we always talk about that. But then 2001, the year of 9/11, we came over to Northwestern and played football when I was at Bowling Green. And you were friends with our athletic director, Paul Krebs, who was at Ohio State. And I remember we played a home and home in basketball and the one game in football. But I do remember that you were coming over and you visited us in Bowling Green to talk a little fundraising and meet some people that, were in the business. And a lot of people may not know. They may know you just from broadcasting, but you were on the staff at Northwestern for a long time, and now you got the heck out of town and you live in South Dakota. Good for you.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the Street and Smith first. It's amazing how things happen. I ended up at Northwestern. Indiana's part of it. Northwestern was recruiting Brian Sloan. He went to Indiana. So they moved down the list. Steve Stoico, who you may or may not remember, he was out of Ohio. He ended up going to Michigan. And then they kept going down the slow white guy list until they got to me. And I was available. And that's how I ended up at Northwestern. It was just one of those things where it was the right place, right time. And then JD, I remember that in 2001, Northwestern was supposed to play Navy in football. And obviously with all the events of 9/11, Navy had other things to worry about. And so there was that game was put together rather hastily, if you remember.
Yes,
there was an open day for both teams. And there was a relationship. Greg Brandon was the head coach at Bowling Green at the time.
Yes.
Who'd been a receiver coach at Northwestern. And so, the powers that be got on there and were able to get it arranged. And Bowling Green came in there and won in a heck of a game. It was just a fantastic game, back and forth all the way. But that's how that kind of came about. And I do remember going over to Bowling Green. My wife went to Ohio State, and she knew Paul Krebs. And then I got to know Paul through some mutual friends, and did come over and talk a little fundraising and talk just some things about what were going on at the business at the time. So it's hard to believe that's 25 years ago. I was young with a future once. Now I don't have either one. So that's
I'm right behind you, man. I you know what? PTSD. I wake up this morning, turn on my TV, and the guy talking is Tom Crean.
Yeah,
he's talking with people about the NCAA tournament. So, and you mentioned Greg Brandon. Greg lives in Vegas now, and so I'm going to get to see him in June when I go there. But another IU tie with that game was, I think Kevin Wilson was on Randy Walker's staff at that time. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, Kevin was actually the guy that went down to Clemson when Rich Rodriguez was kind of, the offensive guru, and they were starting to play that wide open style of offense. People take that for granted now. That was revolutionary at that time, especially in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And it went against everything Walk wanted to do. He was a pound the ball. We're going to control it. But Kevin convinced him, especially at that time, look, we, meaning Northwestern, we have to have something that makes us unique. We can't line up and play smash mouth football with the Michigans or the Ohio States. We don't have a chance. And so Kevin went down there, kind of studied it, became an evangelist in his own way about that style of play, and convinced Coach Walker, to ride with it. And it worked out well. I mean, they won the Big Ten title in 2000, which kind of followed up 4 or 5 years after Coach Barnett went to the Rose Bowl. So yeah, Kevin was kind of ahead of his time, and especially in convincing Randy that was the right thing to do. And then obviously he went on and was the head coach at Indiana, and most recently at Tulsa. But that was a guy that was trying to think 2 or 3 steps ahead as to what was going to give him, kind of at least an even playing field. And no one knew how to defend that at that time. Nobody. They hadn't seen it. And it was really apparent. And now everyone's used to having 4 and 5 wideouts and no backs, and throwing the ball 40 and 50 times a game. Joe Tiller brought it in a little bit with Purdue football, but Randy and Kevin kind of took it to a whole new level. One, because they believed in it, and 2, they thought it was going to give them the best option to win.
Well, and certainly those were 2 programs that you mentioned at the time, Purdue and Northwestern, that it kind of took a little bit of the big 2 little 8 thing, where people were just looking forward to Ohio State, Michigan, and teams started competing more, and you saw more teams go to the Rose Bowl during those years. Illinois, you guys, I know you guys went to the Rose Bowl. That just had to be fascinating. But one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on today is to get kind of a non-biased view of what you saw in the Big Ten this year, what's transpired, and looking ahead to this coming week, because they're my favorite matchup, to be quite honest to you, is Illinois Penn. Brad Underwood and Fran McCaffrey once again going in the first round. That's my favorite matchup. I can't wait to see Coach McCaffrey, and congratulations to him on winning the Ivy League. But first off, how many years have you been broadcasting Big Ten basketball, whether it was through ESPN Plus and now the Big Ten Network?
I just completed my 34th year. Started doing it the winter before my wife and I got married, and got into it completely by accident, JD. I was working as an intern in the marketing department, and the guy I was working for came down and said, "Hey, we got a call from the league. We're interested in finding a former player to give an audition to for TV. Would you be interested?" And, given the fact that I had like no social life and no money, I said, "Sure, I'll try it." I had no idea what it meant. And it wasn't an audition. The first time I ever did television was live. They told me to show up at the game. I showed up. They stuck an IFB in my ear. I had no idea what it was or what it did. No one told me that there was going to be someone talking to you that you couldn't see. And I did it. And, my wife was an assistant volleyball coach at the time, and she was out of town recruiting, and she didn't see it. And, she came back and she says, "Well, how did it go?" And I said, "Hell, they'll never have me back." That was awful. I just had no idea what was going on, but someone saw something. And that first year I did, I think, 2 or 3 games, and then worked with, as you mentioned, this is going all the way back to ESPN Regional, Raycom Sports, Creative Sports, all well before the Big Ten Network, and then was fortunate enough to get on with the Big Ten Network when it started, hard as it is to believe, coming up on 20 years ago.
Well, you're one of the few people that have been with the Big Ten Network since its inception, because I remember you and Wayne Larrabee a lot doing games.
Yeah.
And for those people that don't know or don't remember Wayne, he's kind of a legend in the Chicago area, and I think he still calls the Packers. Am I correct at that?
He does, and that's JD. You bring something up, and that's it's been really cool to cover Big Ten basketball and college basketball in general. But just like in as we've talked about before, the best part about doing that, whatever it is the people you meet. And Wayne was so gracious to me. He called the Super Bowl win for the Bears in '85. He was calling the Cubs, you name it. He was all over Chicago. I was just somebody starting out. He treated me really well. I've had a chance to work with guys like Tom Hamilton, who's in
one of the best.
Yeah, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, Pat Hughes. I mean, the fact that these guys have overcome working with me to achieve what they've achieved just speaks to their professionalism. So I had a really good opportunity to meet a lot of fantastic people along the way, many of whom have become friends. And that's, the game is always the thing, but it's the people that are involved in the game, which, in my opinion, keep you coming back because, a basketball game is a basketball game. But when you go to places and you see your fellow announcers or you see somebody that is working in the media services that is doing their job really well, and you gain hopefully a amount of mutual respect. That's what kind of makes it cool.
All right, now this past week we saw the Big Ten tournament and we saw Purdue limping in, and they dominated. What were some of the things that you saw from the Big Ten tournament? Maybe surprises, disappointments. I thought UCLA winning a game or two was something, and of course Michigan State only made it to the Friday round, and that with Izzo sometimes that can be a blessing to get knocked out early in the conference tournament because you can rest up and get guys to refocus. What were your thoughts on last week's tournament, which saw Purdue end up beating Michigan, and most of the wins I think were by a pretty decent margin, weren't they?
They were, and to your point about Purdue, they lost 3 of their last 4 coming in, and probably should have lost all 4. They were really fortunate to win on the road at Northwestern. And the thing that stood out to me about their run in that Big Ten tournament was defensively they took it to a different level. They just they jumped on Northwestern right away and didn't give them a chance, and then that carried all the way over. And they started to really get Oscar Clough, the kid that came in from South Dakota State last year, was phenomenal for them. And I think he started to he had a really good start to the year, kind of had a lull, kind of like the team did a little bit, where they were winning some games, but they weren't playing as well as they possibly could. Then they hit a little bit of a trough, and he came out the other end just like they did and playing extremely, extremely well. And it's been on the defensive end of the floor that I noticed the biggest change with them. That was, a real positive. I still think I saw Michigan in person in December, and I walked out of there thinking that's a team that can win the whole thing. And I still believe that, even though losing Kaysen, I think is a problem for them in the backcourt. Wisconsin's going to be a team that can maybe win a couple of games, JD. But man, when you shoot 43s a game, you better hope you don't have an off night because, you're not going to get a chance to regroup after that. I think that Michigan has a real chance to win it the way Purdue's playing right now. I think that's a team that has a chance to make a deep run. And you mentioned Illinois. I think they're kind of a wild card. They can be really, really good. They're experienced. Wagler's just a fantastic player for them. They've got size. But there's times that, they'll go through 5, 6, 7 minute spurts where they're not real effective and efficient. And that could come back to cost them. But that's a team that I still think can make a really deep run. Those 3 teams to me right now maybe have separated themselves a little bit heading into the tournament. Iowa got kind of a tough draw with Clemson. Ohio State, I was happy that Bruce Thornton got in. I think that's a kid who's had a really good career at Ohio State. But I think those 3 teams right now for me, and especially with the way Purdue's playing defensively, can make a really good run.
Shon Morris, former Northwestern great, Big Ten analyst with us in JD Campbell's corner. Of course, JD Campbell along as well as they're bearing out some of the recent happenings and in this Big Ten tournament. And I agree with you, JD. Man, Purdue had really hit a lull, but no one caught fire and played better. And I've talked about this a couple times, and both of you, especially Sean, but I think because Braden Smith went record hunting for this all-time assist record, that it actually helped the heck out of Purdue, because he is now getting everybody else involved in the offense instead of him focusing on scoring, and it has lifted that team across the board.
Yeah, and you've had other guys that I think have kind of started to really grasp their roles. Clough, man, you're going to get a double out of him. Then that frees up Kaufman, Wren, and it to your point, Jim, it kind of becomes a domino effect. When Smith's out there and he's actively looking to get guys going, they don't win the one game they win in that 4-game streak. They don't win the game against Northwestern if Braden Smith doesn't say, you know what, CJ Cox has the hot hand. I got to do whatever I can do to get him the ball. And, if it leads to a record, that's even so much for the better. But he's finding guys that are riding the hot hand. And I think between that and whatever Coach Painter said to them in the locker room after that game that they lost at home to Wisconsin on Senior Day about defense, man, he said, we're going back to the drawing board. We'll hold on to that drawing board, encase it in plexiglass, and take it wherever you go, because it's worked for him.
It certainly has. JD Campbell, Campbell's Corner. He's got Shon Morris on this Tuesday. We've got lots more coming up. Back with it right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Bored, Bloomington? Dave & Buster's can fix that. Eat and drink your way through our all-new menu. Play half-price games every Sunday through Thursday. Watch all your team's wins on a 40-foot screen and 30 HD TVs. And level up with the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game. Private game suites, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's on 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along. Glad to have you in for Campbell's Corner, especially. JD's got Shon Morris lined up today. And always fun hearing the great stories. The former Northwestern great and Big Ten basketball analyst, JD.
Academic All-American, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
It's like my daughter went on a visit early. Well, she ended up going to Ole Miss, but she came here on a visit to the Kelly School, and I was like,
I think she may have asked me if I had been in there. I'm like, no, I didn't even know where this building was. So no, I did not ever go into the building housing the Kelly School of Business. But yeah, smart athletes, man, make smart broadcasters. JD.
Well, and Shon is one of the smartest because he really is able to break the game down and analyze, and the fairness that he shows to both teams. And I'm sure at some point somebody texted you or reached out to you and said, "Hey, how come you hate my team?" Because that's what all announcers have to go through. But going back to the NCAA tournament, one game in particular that I'm also interested in is UCLA and UCF, and that's in Philadelphia. And as a kid who grew up on the West Coast, you always heard from people on the West Coast that, oh God, we got to go east, and it's 3 hours difference. But certainly playing in the Big Ten has prepared their players for this mission. And I would like to get your thoughts on that UCLA UCF game coming up this week.
Well, I think so much of it is going to come down to, for UCLA, too. First of all, to your point, I mean, every game right now, with the exception of that West Coast swing, this East Coast trip out there, especially since they're going to be able to get out there a couple of days early, is going to be essentially a non-factor. The biggest factor, I think, for UCLA coming in is going to be their health. Bilodeau went down, really it started to play well for them. And then, Donovan Dent, I think it was more precautionary in their last game. It looked like he strained a calf or something, and they held him out. And I think if you're Mick Cronin, you're like, look, we're probably not going to win this ball game. So I don't really want to maybe stretch Donovan Dent here, who's a guy that toward the end for them really started to heat things up. He was the Mountain West Player of the Year a season ago at New Mexico. I think that they're getting healthy. They also have tightened up their defense. That's something they've kind of hung their hat on out there. I think, old cliches kind of die hard. And I think a lot of people want to talk about, oh, the West Coast, they're soft. Well, UCLA is not soft. And I can certainly tell you, even though they're not on the coast, they're out West. Arizona sure ain't soft.
No.
So, I think those are sometimes when people toss that out, I think they're kind of living in the past or just being a little lazy. You kind of have to look at things the way they are. But I think UCLA, if Bilodeau's able to play, which it sounds like he's going to be, and Donovan Dent's able to go for them, that they have enough guys, especially a guy like Dent, that, when it gets clutch time, he can go and get his own, and he will. And he's shown the willingness to take a big shot. And, most importantly, JD, is, being around it, not just to take a big shot, but being willing to know that you may miss that big shot and live with that too. Because a lot of guys, they say they want the ball in their hands when it counts, but they only want the ball in their hands if it counts, if it's guaranteed it's going to go well. Well, that doesn't happen, right? So Dent has shown that fearlessness, and I think for them to make the kind of run that they can against a really athletic UCF team, they'll need him at full bore, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah, if you play the what if game and you look at potential matchups over the weekend, I think the one that stands out to me is potentially Wisconsin and Arkansas. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on, Arkansas just blitzed through the SEC tournament. But Wisconsin's always, you never know what you're going to get with Wisconsin. 75, 80% of the time, you get the real Wisconsin, but sometimes they struggle against teams you're surprised they struggle against. But I know a lot of people are talking about this matchup, potentially Wisconsin against Arkansas.
Well, with Wisconsin, there's also a health issue there, right? I mean, their backcourt's been fantastic. Boyd and Blackwell, I mean, they can go out and get buckets, and they've got a little bit of fearlessness to them, especially Boyd getting to the rim. But they've been without Nolan Winter for a while, and that, I think, to get him completely healthy, to have somebody that you can throw the ball to into the block, especially if your 3-point shots aren't going, that can be something that will really determine their ability to win a potential game against a team like Arkansas, because you can throw the ball into Winter and he can score. He can pass out of that double team. He can step out and hit the three if you need him to, but they have enough guys that can do that. When you're chucking up 40 a game, sometimes you want to be a little bit more diversified. And I think getting Nolan Winter back and healthy, where they can throw the ball inside to him, would really help them out. But you have to love their backcourt. Blackwell has, I think, 4 or 5 30-point games this year. Boyd gets to the line. Even though everyone in the building and the viewing public, and if there are people on other planets, they all know he's going to go left. Everybody knows he's going to go left. And he still is able to get to his left hand. And I think their ability to kind of control with that backcourt gives them a shot. I just think that if they have Nolan Winter, it helps their chances, because, man, there's going to be a half or a run where those threes aren't falling, and you have to be able to at least get to the foul line and get something productive out of each possession, because everyone talks about, well, we want more possessions. Well, if you're not getting anything out of them, what the hell's the difference? You got to get something out of it, and sometimes it's just getting to the foul
line. A couple of teams that I'm not sure which way they're going to go, and I'm curious about your thoughts on them. Nebraska got off to that great start, but they've kind of looked human a little bit over the last month. And Michigan State, you see great performances from them, and then you see, I was really surprised UCLA got them in the tournament. And of course, Tom Izzo, is Tom Izzo. The guys made, I don't know how many straight tournaments, maybe over 20. But those are two teams that if I was just looking at it reasonably, I'd say, hopefully they can get back to where they are, because I do think there's an element of not getting beat up and playing against your conference teams, because you're more, coaching. The coaching and scouting in the Big Ten on the assistant side is one of the best ever. They know everything. They know every tendency you have. And a lot of great coaches are in this league that aren't head coaches. But now you get to play somebody outside of the conference. And what do you think about both Michigan State and Nebraska this time around?
Well, I'll start with Nebraska. They're not real deep, but I think to your point, JD, it's a really good one. On the offensive end of the floor, they spread it and they cut, and they're so precise. And, toward the back end of the Big Ten season, Big Ten teams were able to kind of maybe counter those tendencies, right? Someone that's coming in out of the blue with how they spread it, how hard they cut. Peyton Sanford cuts as hard as anybody that I've seen in the last 7 or 8 years. Maybe the last guy in the league that did it was the other kid at Nebraska, who just kept moving without the basketball. He kept moving. Tominaga, he just kept moving without the basketball. And Sanford does that. And they're looking for him. And if they find something that works, they stick with it. Offensively, they've been pretty good. I think the thing that's been the difference for them this year, in addition to getting Mast healthy, has been defensively. They are as good as you're going to see. They're not the most athletic team. They're probably not going to have a guy, maybe other than Hoiberg, that you could say, hey, this guy is going to be somebody that we would put on somebody and then eventually lock them down. It truly is a team defense and rotating. And, you talked about the coaching in the league. Lesnar there has done a great job with Fred's defense. Their margin for error isn't real big. They don't have I don't think it's a great draw for them with Troy. Troy's a really well-coached team, high-powered. They can get up and down the floor and score. But I think that's a game that Nebraska should be able to win. They're just not real deep. They had some injury problems this year. Buchengel was out for a while. Frager was out for a while. I think they're healthy, but they just don't go real deep. But they'll go as far as their defense will take them, because they're pretty stout there. Michigan State, they got kind of a funky draw too. North Dakota State, I live up here in the Dakotas, so, when it's snowing 14 feet, you got nothing else to do but to kind of watch ball. And North Dakota State won the Summit League. They only lost two games rather in the league. They've got some inside presence, a couple of guys that can get up and down the floor. They can shoot the three. They're north of 50% as a team. They'll provide some challenges to Michigan State. But what I like about Michigan State's chances in that game and moving forward is for a couple of years, they weren't awful rebounding the ball, but they weren't at the level that you kind of got accustomed to seeing Michigan State doing. And man, they control the boards now. And because they control it, they like to, they like to get up and down the floor. That allows them to run. They've gotten tremendous point play from Fears. He's been really solid with the ball. He can score when he needs to. They're not a great shooting team, but their versatility, I think a guy that got overlooked. I know there's a lot of people you can put on all league teams, but it was kind of shocking to me that Jackson Kohler didn't make, some team. He averaged nearly a double-double in that league, and he's a guy that can step out and knock down the threes, about 40% from three-point range. So I think that, with Kohler and Carson Cooper, they've got a couple of bigs that are going to give teams problems. They're not used to seeing that sort of versatility along the front line. They'll defend. If they shoot the ball the way they're capable, a guy like Kurtan can come in and kind of stretch things out. That's a team that could make. I think they can certainly make a run into the second weekend because they're not going to do a ton to help you beat them. Especially, they're not going to give up second chance points, and they've done a better job of taking care of the ball, especially with Fears that they're going to be a tough out for somebody. But that's another interesting matchup, JD. Just keep an eye on that North Dakota State, Michigan State game, especially early. I think it's going to be tight early because NDSU has a couple of guys that if they get hot, they had a guy that Tay Smith that had 8 threes in a game this year, right? And if you go back to a couple of years ago, remember the kid at Oakland who just absolutely, I think he torched 10 threes on Kentucky. That's all it takes, right? So I don't know what that kid's doing now. But if I'm him, I'm sitting at the Applebee's telling everybody what I did 2 years ago in the tournament.
Oh, yeah. I wish I could remember his name. My gosh, was that fun.
It's like Jack Gonke or something like that. He was a transfer from Hillsdale College. I know that.
Yes, because you know how when you say something, it starts appearing on your phone and your computers and whatnot. Ever since I have talked about that guy from 2 years, I keep getting stuff from Hillsdale College now.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude, stop with this stuff. But I'll look him up in the break. But that's the fun. And now, like Bennett Sturts is kind of a more recent example. He's with Iowa now. What will he do with the guys over there? We'll certainly see that. But Campbell's Corner right now has got Shon Morris. And we've got you, more importantly, back with plenty more right after we take a quick pause for the cause. Right after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington has the deals for you, like great savings on the remaining 2025 Hondas. First-time buyers get more than expected. The Honda Civic and HR-V are the most popular vehicles for first-time buyers in the U.S. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington also has a quality selection of pre-certified used vehicles. And check out the selection of Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's 2026 models, like the Honda Passport, Honda CR-V Hybrid, Honda Ridgeline, and more. ISB Radio with Jim Coyle is brought to you exclusively on The Zone by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Dave & Buster's Bloomington is the place to eat, drink, play, and watch. Enjoy half-price games every Sunday through Thursday, a new menu to dig into, and next-level upgrades like private game suites, the high-flying human crane that puts you in the game, our exclusive arena, and more. Only at Dave & Buster's Bloomington, 731 South College Mall Road.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, on this Tuesday as we're heading into the start of the NCAA tournament. So probably the funnest time of the year for a 3-week period. J.D. Campbell has got Shon Morris in Campbell's corner, former Northwestern great, Big Ten analyst. 34 years, man. That's a long time to be doing any gig.
Shon,
Yeah.
Shon, I'm sorry. I want to correct you on one thing. Former college basketball players don't eat at Applebee's anymore. If they receive NIL money, they're all going to Ruth's Chris.
Buy Applebee's, maybe.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
maybe the current vintage, but those of us that are on more of a fixed income, that we call that a big night.
Well, where I would be at Mustard's Last Stand. That's where I go.
Well, JD, all the night players from the 90s, their training table was at Steak and Shake.
Well, again, a lot of great stories. I remember, the first year NIL came out, we were going up to play at Minnesota, and we always have kind of the same night before dinner with we always had salmon because Jalen Hood-Schifino was a pescatarian. I think that's what they call it. I don't know. He had fish every meal, it seemed like. But I do remember that the guys would eat, and then there'd be a rash of DoorDash deliveries from places like Fogo de Chao, Ruth's Chris, any big steakhouse. I remember Trace getting something from DoorDash after eating that meal, and that's kind of the thing that we're dealing with now with all the teams and the NIL. And I've said to Jim, I said, the thing that's really hard to discern is, are you a team or are you a program? And we have to acknowledge this time in terms of these kids get 4 years to make as much money as they can. And they may not ever make as much money as they have when they're playing at a high level in the NCAA. And did we see a little bit of the haves and have-nots a little bit this past year in the Big Ten? Because I was surprised. And I know, like, in that Crown tournament, teams like Rutgers and Minnesota are going, whereas the two highest-ranked teams that didn't get in the NCAA tournament, Indiana and USC, they chose not to go, and they certainly have good reasons for doing that. But I'm interested in your take, if you could see maybe a little difference in that you see teams that have some really good funding, and then you see teams that are going to struggle to get by if their NIL doesn't pick it up here in the coming years.
Yeah, I think that the end game for all this, guys, is that, this is just the next step in what have thought for quite a while is going to be the ultimate outcome of this, is that football is driving everything, and what's going to happen, in my opinion, and I've thought this for quite a while, is that because these teams, as much as money is coming in from all this stuff, and then it's going out in NIL and all those other sorts of things, as much as the money is coming in, it is going out just as quickly. And so the top 40, 50, 60, whatever the number is, they're going to go off and they're going to do their own thing. And football will drive it, but they will also go and do their own basketball tournament, because what does Ohio State have to do with Central Arkansas? And the answer to that would be pretty much nothing. And these schools are just looking at it now. It's a business. It always has been a business, but now it's just right out in front. The amount of money that's being spent, they're not going to want to continue to share, with the schools that just don't have the resources to compete with them. And I don't think that's going to be an all bad thing, to be honest with you. I think that once what I feel is going to be the inevitable break happens, then there may be a little bit more sanity, whether it's regionally or resource wise, where teams that maybe have a little bit more in common can kind of form and do their own thing. The downside of what I think is going to happen, what we're going to experience here in the next 3 weeks, as Jim talked about, I think it's probably the best 3 weeks in sports in America, period. You're not going to have that in 8 to 10 years, because you can't have David and Goliath when Davids aren't invited to the dance. And I think that you're going to have, like I said, 40 or 50 schools. They don't need the NCAA to do their own thing. They've shown that with football. They'll show it with basketball, and will then allow them to divvy up more of the money to spend how they want. Because, a lot of these schools that chose to opt in to, whatever that meant, to the 22.1, they don't have that money, JD. You know that. They don't have it. It's more of a procedural thing. And I just think that what's going to happen is not going to necessarily be all bad. It's just going to be the culmination of what you've seen over the last 7 to 8 years. I think that's what's going to come into play. And to answer your other question about, teams and things like that, I think it's really difficult to put together a true team now, because you're starting over all the time. You're almost playing a video game with real life guys, because you're just trying to plug and play. And that's why I think you see so many teams playing the same way, because they don't have time and the practice time to institute anything that may be a little bit different. So that's not necessarily all bad. It's just an observation of kind of what I see about how things are going. And, with the money that's involved, look, if guys can get it, hey, good for you. But the one thing that I've noticed, even before NIL, is that there are a lot of guys that play, they don't love it, but they like what the game can give them, if that makes any sense.
Completely. And again, I think we are in a period of transition. Certainly coaches have shorter leashes. If you've seen some of the transactions that have taken place, and again, it's like at the end of the year, and whether it's football or basketball, really the bottom line is, if your fans are happy at the end of the year, you're going to be safe. But what makes fans happy? Will they ever be happy? What's the end product? What's the expectation? And I think that's always, been something that you have to watch. And certain schools are more patient. I look at Fred Hoiberg. I don't think he'd have survived if he was at a school that had expectations. I don't think Brad Underwood would have survived with what happened during his first 3 years at Illinois. And I question whether Matt Painter would have survived after those 2 seasons, 13 or 14, 15, or whatever it was. And I think patience is the key. Patience is the key. You just got to ride the horse. You got to let the horse do its thing, build something, and really, you can't, do the video game like you talked about, the reset button, a lot, and because it does end up catching up to you. And I'm sure folks in Kentucky would have some revisionist history. 24 months ago, were they tired of Cal and wanted a change, and now, it's not happening, or at least at the level I think Kentucky wants it to happen. And you see guys in their first year. You look at a lot of you look here, and the expectations, man, they're almost, sometimes they're impossible to meet.
Well, yeah, that's right. I think they're unrealistic. But when you start throwing that money around, and then to your point about patience with coaches, I got to tell you, if I'm these coaches and these programs, the days of, at least in my opinion, of people being able to say, well, they're just college kids. You know what, JD? You start taking money, that changes. It may not be fair. People may not think it's fair, but
Sure.
it's going to come down to, and you're already starting to see it a little bit. Look, and these coaches know this, that, hey, look, if I don't win, I'm gone. Especially if I'm in one of these places where they're investing a ton of money and I'm going out and putting this team together. Well, you know what? If for whatever reason, if a kid isn't producing, you're going to see more of, hey, you know what? It's been nice knowing you. But if we're going to make this a transactional relationship, and part of that transaction, two-sided transaction, doesn't fulfill his role, it may be time for you to go somewhere else. And, because you can't take the money, and the coaches know this, they take the money, and those come with expectations. Well, now, if you're a player and you're taking the money, there are very few secrets about what somebody may or may not be getting. It may be exaggerated a little bit, but they're getting something, and more than just a little something. Well, the days of being able to say, well, these are just college kids and whatever, and then you throw the gambling on top of it, it's a whole different thing. So you better produce. If you're a coach, you better produce with wins. And if you're a player, especially if you're going to be quote unquote on the payroll, that's life, man. You don't get to have let's give them they're just college kids deal and take the money at the same time. It doesn't work that way.
Shon, what's up next for you, my friend?
Well, I didn't have to get out in 4 feet of snow today like I did yesterday to get out of the driveway. So that's a win. Just going to watch some ball. And as JD mentioned, we live out here in South Dakota. Man, I love it. It's bird
hunting paradise, baby.
It's not too bad. And it's worked out great. So just enjoy some time with my wife and my dog and lay low.
Where in South Dakota area?
We're just outside of Brookings. So we're in northeast South Dakota.
Yeah, familiar with it, man. Love it. Love that area. Love it. It is just a beautiful area. The Black Hills, there's just so much there. I can't thank you enough, as always, for coming on and being a part of JD Campbell's Corner. Can't thank JD enough as well. JD, look, you've got some busy times coming up as well, right?
Yeah, we've got baseball practice. Everybody's on spring break, so we've got an open gym because actually baseball practice in Indiana started yesterday.
I hated practicing in the gym in the spring. They use those stinking hard rubber balls and beat the hell out of you.
No, well, actually, it's really refined because the baseballs we use inside, they don't ouch. They don't ouch you anymore.
Well, that's good, buddy. Well, I can't thank everybody enough. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We appreciate you. We appreciate JD. Appreciate Shon. Appreciate each and every one of you. Go out, have yourselves a great day. We're back tomorrow to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.